Alright, so we're going to start to work on disassembling and rebuilding the steering box. This is the row crop model box. They're actually quite a bit different from the utility type. Some parts are similar, but that's kind of where it ends. Of course, the one big thing is there's no sector and pitman arm on the left-hand side of the tractor. We just have the one on the right-hand side. But first thing you're going to have to do is take out your fill plug and flip this thing over and drain it. I tried that with mine. Absolutely nothing came out. So I don't know if this thing is completely empty because my pitman seal was leaking, or if this thing's full of some kind of grease or what. I don't know. We're going to find out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on getting this side cover off. And the first thing we're going to do is take out these 3 bolts and then this nut. Our next thing is going to be this nut, which they call it a lock nut. We're going to take this nut loose, this washer, and there should be a seal in there. Hopefully I can get it with this adjustable wrench. And of course, it's wanting to spin the center, so I'm just going to hold it, because we're not ready to move that center just yet. Okay, so there's the nut. Okay, and there's a little washer, courtesy of our adjustable hammer. There should be like a packing material in here. I can kind of see it on mine. Probably just going to leave it alone. Now we're going to spin this bolt here clockwise to kind of push this cover off. And I'm not dripping any oil yet. Well, I'll take that back. Here comes like what looks like water coming out of this box. So there's the little packing material, or what's left of it. Okay, so let me turn this box on its side real quick and get something to absorb this, what I believe is water, because it's extremely runny. Okay, let's set that there. This packing material, I think it's like some kind of gasket type material, maybe a cork or something. I do not think that part is available, so we'll have to remake it, or possibly just use an O-ring, because I think an O-ring might fit there. Maybe. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Just going to continue spinning this in. And I believe the cover is now loose. Okay. So Somebody's going to make my job real fun now. Because this thing is packed full of grease. And you can see all of it right in here. This should actually have like 90 weight gear oil in it. Usually what people do if these boxes are leaking, instead of repairing them, they just fill these things full of grease. I know the common thing is to use a corn head grease from a combine because it's like a zero pressure grease. When I rebuild this, I will be putting 85-140 gear oil in it, which is kind of like the thickest oil that I could find outside of a grease. And I'm going to set this down because it's just caked full and leaking everywhere. So that's also going to make this really fun to disassemble, being covered in this grease. Which I've never messed with any kind of corn headers, so I don't know if this is a corn head grease or something else. Alright, so my next piece to come out is actually going to be this sector gear. However, I think I'm going to try and see if I can scoop some of this grease out of here and get it thrown away. Let me just go grab a dang trash bag or just a paper towel. That's some pretty nasty stuff there. Okay, so now I didn't get it all out, but I got enough of it out to hopefully manage this a little bit. That's some pretty nasty grease, and you can kind of see in there how I cleaned up some of it, but not all of it. So now I'm going to try to slide that sector gear out. May have to tap it with a hammer. It's almost guaranteed, in all honesty. Let's see if I can tap it out. I'm just barely tapping because I don't want to mess up my threads. And there's a glob of that grease starting to just ooze down. So you can see how thick that is. Alright, I'm going to spin this around. I've done the different gearboxes in the past, and I ain't never had to hammer them like this to get them out. Alright. Let's spin this back around so this camera can see here. Alright, so there's the sector gear. And then once it comes free, it will slide right out. And there should be some thrust washers on here, so keep that in mind. You don't want to lose those. But that is some thick, nasty grease. Yeah, I think I might have a thrust washer right there, but well, maybe. It might be stuck to that gear. But keep it in mind that you'll have a thrust washer somewhere in here. So don't lose that. So now we're going to work down here. We could completely disassemble this. Our service manual wants us to actually remove the 4 big retaining bolts and remove this as an assembly. And then disassemble it once it's removed. Yay, more nasty grease. Okay, so here's this end plate. Alright, the manual says go ahead and disassemble that now as the next step. I'm going to set that to a side for a minute and just continue on with disassembling the main column. So I'm going to turn this back onto its side. This is what makes it really fun with this grease in here, because if it was oil I could sop it all up really easily. But this grease just kind of oozing out makes this more difficult. I'm going to go ahead and just remove the steering wheel nut, washer, and spring off the top of my column. Them threads up there don't look too pretty. There should be a thrust washer here, and I believe that mine came out right here, being stuck to that grease. I believe that's the thrust washer. Okay, so now the steering shaft itself should come out. I'm pretty sure a lot of the issues I'm having with disassembling this is because of this grease being so sticky. It's creating a suction effect, because this stuff should just easily slide in and out. Okay, one more piece off the top. This is the spring seat. And pretty much every piece that's up here at the very top is available new. Speaking of pieces right here, this is a tapered bearing and a cup, or a race, if you want to call it that. That's on the very bottom of our worm gear and steering shaft. There's 2 of those. They're available. Alright, so there's what they call a adjusting sleeve in here, which I don't know if you can really pick it up on camera. But it's basically like a big piece that's around our worm gear. I believe that's what's making this so difficult, because that has to come out with it, and that's a really tight fit on this housing. So I'm going to stand this back up so I can maybe get some help from gravity. Let's see if I can get this thing to knock out. Okay. and that did help me. Now, while taking this apart, I noticed something, and this is an issue that arises when you pump grease into these. So, your lower bearing is down here and sets in grease. Problem is, look at this upper bearing. This thing's rusted. There's no grease getting up here to this thing, and it just basically fails, for lack of a better term. So that's why I don't like putting grease in them, because the oil will get up in there to it. But there's the steering shaft, basically, with our gear here. And these threads up here are kind of boogered up, so I'm going to have to try and fix them somehow or another. So right here is that sleeve that's supposed to be on the worm gear and was supposed to come out with the gear. Hopefully I can get that to come on out. See if I can tap that out of here. Oh, this grease is nasty. Don't do this, people. I'm going to try to figure out a way to get this adjuster out of here, because the race for this upper bearing is pressed into it. Alright, up here in the very top of the column we have another bearing. Sounds real good, looks real good. Right. We need to knock this off, and it should be, if you look really close, you should see a lip around the top. That's how that's going to come out. One thing I ain't too crazy about this one, the all-purpose type tractors, this tube will unbolt. I think this one's like a press fit or something down in here, so it's kind of a pain. It'd be nice if there was a way to unbolt it. So I took a propane torch and I heated up the side of the tube just enough to get that to break free. Pulled a little bit on it with a slide hammer so I can get underneath this bearing. Should be able to get it to come out. And there's that bearing, or what's left of it. This bearing takes a lot of abuse, because if you're like me, you always grab the steering wheel to help pull yourself up on your tractor, and this bearing is what gets that abuse from pulling up on your tractor. So now, hopefully I can get all the way down through there to catch that upper bearing race and maybe that sleeve. And get that knocked out. And here's that upper race when it basically never gets greased when you put grease in here. So now the only piece left in there is that sleeve. I'm not having any luck getting that sleeve out of there. So I may end up leaving it, but we'll see. Alright, so I took everything and cleaned it up with some gas. Got rid of probably 99% of that grease. So now I have to finish disassembling this thing. First thing I'm going to do is get this sill out. Then I got 2 bushings in here. I bought a new tool and I'm going to see if I can get this adjuster out. I don't know if I'll be able to or not, but I'm going to try it. And then I got 1 more bushing to get out on the side cover. To get this sill out, I'm going to try this blind hole puller. If you've never seen one of these, you basically have this little tool adapter right here that'll go in and catch a lip on something. And it has basically a point inside of it. And whenever you tighten it down, these fingers will kind of spread out, which you can kind of see the difference there and there. And then I'll grab around it. And that just screws onto a little slide hammer and you can pull bushings and seals out. So I'm going to see if this tool will get this seal out. Okay, so that's a fail. So since that didn't work, we'll flip this around and take the bushings out on the other side first, and then see if we can knock this seal out from inside. So in here's these bushings. Alright, so I got that blind hole puller in there behind that bushing. And let's see if we can get it to move. I'll tell you what, this kit has like a 2-jaw puller in it. I'm gonna try that. That's wearing me out. Okay, so this puller's kind of designed backwards, but it's a Chinese puller, so go figure. Instead of turning the jack screw to pull the bushing, I'm having to turn the nut and hold the jack screw. And the bad part about that is I don't have a whole lot of thread left on the jack screw. But at least it was able enough to get the bushing out. So there's my first one out. This bushing and the second bushing down in here are the same. However, if you look at the printed parts manual, it claims that these 2 bushings and the one in the side cover are the same. However, the one in the side cover is different. It's smaller. It's actually the same one that the utility type tractors use, you know, the 600 and 800. So now let me get this one off of here and I'll reset the tool and we'll get the other bushing out. But you know what, I got an idea and I'll try it. I'm gonna see if I can pull this bushing and the seal at the same time from the other side. It might work, it might not, but we're going to try it. And I'm just grabbing right here on the edge. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to try to get me some depth here. So let's see if I can get this one to pull. Okay, I can see the bushing moving. And it's got to go a certain distance before it'll contact the seal. Which I think all I did was ended up just pulling the rubber out of the seal.
Yep, that's all I did. But since I got the bushing coming out, I'm going to go ahead and just continue to pull the bushing. So there's the bushing and the rubber part of the sill. So now, here's the sill, the spring, little garter spring on the sill, and then that metal cage in there. So I might be able to now get this puller in here behind this metal cage and get it to come out. Because when I tried earlier with that puller there, it was just grabbing the rubber and basically just flexing it. Ah, that grease is nasty. Okay, and this looks like this is pulling the seal this time. Now, you don't need this puller for the seal. I just have it, and so I'm using it. You can probably go in behind with like a screwdriver or hammer and just knock it out. I'm going to reset this jaw here a second. I'm going to reset it because I just have it overlapping the seal. I'm going to see if I can catch just the edge. That way we can see if we can get this seal to pull on out. Want that thing to come out by now. There we go. And there's the seal out. See, and this one here is just a larger diameter. So it's all you do is change the diameters and get bigger parts in and out. I tell you, I was really surprised about this puller. I figured I'd just use a slide hammer. This puller actually does a really good job. If you buy these kits, just be sure you actually get the puller and not just slide hammer, because some only have slide hammers. So, last piece I got on here is that lash adjuster. And to get it out, I'm going to try one of these pullers. I don't know if it'll work or not. Quite frankly, I'm leaning towards not, because I don't even know if I can get behind it. So it kind of looks like I cannot. Stupid me, don't have my flashlight with me, so I can't check. There's a teeny tiny lip behind it. I mean, it's thinner than the plate, so I highly doubt that I can get that piece out. It would be extremely nice to get everything cleaned up. However, I really just don't think I will be able to. Unless I can maybe grab it here on the very end, because there's a little bit better area there. I'll try that off camera. If it works, great. If not, then assume that I didn't get it out. Alright, so the next piece I'm going to go grab is going to be the side cover, and I'm going to go ahead and get that bushing pulled out, and then I'll show you the size differences on them. Alright, so here's the side cover, and you can see how much different the bushings are. So be aware of that when you buy your parts. And this is a 4000 box, which is a later box. And the online catalog through New Holland shows this correct bushing. It's just the printed version that don't. However, the printed version does not go to 1964. I think it stops at 58 maybe. So that may be a design change, I don't know, but just be aware of it. Pry against these two little ribs here. Alright, that took a little oomph there to get it break free, but now that it's free, it's coming nice and easily. You can kind of see the bushing coming out right there. Alright, so there's the bushing out. And this piece is now ready for a little bit of final cleaning to get the last bit of grease out, and that'll be ready for blasting. As far as this piece here is concerned, the manual takes this off all at one time. I am going to disassemble this, clean it all up and everything. It should be pretty straightforward. You know, take the nut off. This plate will probably come off at that point, and then this is your actual adjuster that goes all the way through. Spin it out, clean everything up. This should be pretty easy to go back. Now, there is a setting for this that I will show going back together of how to properly preload your bearings and everything. And that's another reason this will come apart. But to get it apart should be pretty self-explanatory. Alright, so that's it for now.